Let's make sure that we end this across-the-board sequester that doesn't differentiate between smart government spending and dumb government spending. Let's take a scalpel and not a meat cleaver.
President Obama seeking support from House Democrats this week for his new budget, which would break automatic spending caps and spend billions more on government programs. And we're back now with the panel. So here briefly is the president's plan for his new budget, which will be out tomorrow. The president wants to go 7% over the automatic spending caps sequestration, with $38 billion more for defense and $37 billion more for domestic programs. He would pay for this with $320 billion over 10 years in new taxes and fees. Julie, do White House officials really think that they can get Republicans who clearly want more defense spending to go along with this, or is this really about the White House trying to get a good political issue?
It's a wish list. It's what the White House wants in their perfect scenario. I think on the sequester, when it comes to defense cuts in particular, they're hoping to find some alignment with Republicans. Everyone agrees that the sequester has been a bad idea. No one wanted it to go in place in the first place. There's a huge gap, though, between the way the White House is proposing to get rid of the sequester cuts and what Republicans want to do. I think mainly the White House's purpose here is to say, I've at least put out a plan. The president has put out a plan. It's your turn, Republicans. If you want to get rid of these spending cuts, if you want to put forward a budget, now you go.
We asked you for questions for the panel, and we got this from Mike Johnson on Facebook, who writes, there is no reason to end caps, the spending caps. What reasoning is there to spend trillions more when the debt is so high already? Dana, how do you answer that pretty good question from Mike? And is there a danger for Republicans to oppose, if they oppose the president's budget, not only free community college and expanded child care, but also his plan to increase defense spending?
Well, I think two things. Remember, the administration said that sequester was going to ruin the economy. Now that they say that the economy is doing better, we no longer need the sequester. So I'm not sure that they can actually square that circle. I think the best thing Republicans can do is say, thank you for your budget request, Mr. President, and then try to find Democrats that will go issue by issue for them, because there are very few moderate fiscal Democrats left in the Congress. So I think that not taking it as a whole pie, but taking it piece by piece is going to be a smarter strategy for them.
George, your thoughts about the president's budget and this way? You know, the Republican way would be, well, if you want increases in spending in some areas, then cut spending in other areas. Obviously, the White House has a different view, which is hundreds of billions of dollars more in new taxes.
Well, the sequester is the worst form of government, except for the way we used to do it, which is to have no sense of restraint whatever. The real problem is that at a moment when the foreign policy skies are darkening, the effect of the sequester is disproportionately to disarm the country, because it takes 1/2 of all the cuts come from the central business of government, which is national security and defense.
Let's turn to another big story this week, and that is after a 3-week flirtation, Mitt Romney decided on Friday that he is not going to run for president. Here's how he explained it to his supporters on a conference call.
After putting considerable thought into making another run for president, I've decided it's best to give other leaders in the party the opportunity to become our next nominee.
Peter, what does Romney's decision tell you about where the Republican Party is in 2015 and what the messages he was getting from that party, and where do you think it leaves the field for 2016?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think this tells us, that the party is more this or that ideologically. I think it's about Mitt Romney. He ran twice before, once as the nominee, and the party wants to look for somebody that they think can win. And a lot of people who supported him and felt very strongly about Mitt Romney thought this is not a time for him to come back. Mitt Romney himself put it this way about 8 or 9 months ago. He said, look, I understand everybody sitting there telling me to run, are telling me that because I'm not in the race, and once I were to get in the race, it would look different. Well, he ended up testing that thesis, turned out to be true. As for 2016, obviously it leaves more room for Jeb Bush, maybe for Chris Christie to get in, for the establishment part of the party, clarifies that a little bit. But we've got a very open-ended race here, 15, 20 candidates at this point, potentially, and it's a very open field.
George, did Mitt Romney make the right decision not to run, and how do you think this shapes the field, or what we think is going to be the field for the next 2 years?
Mitt Romney became wealthy because he knows how to read markets. He read the political market, its response to this product on offer. A third Romney run was almost uniformly negative. This is a mixed blessing for Jeb Bush. It opens up the donor class to him more, but he wants to delay as long as possible the time before the bullseye on his back says the definite article, the establishment candidate. So he has to avoid that trap.
Julie, I'm sure, because they're all political animals, that they talk about all of this in the White House. How do they handicap the field? What did they make of Mitt Romney getting in? What do they make of him getting out? And who do you sense? I mean, they're not going to be running against whoever the candidate is. It'll be Hillary Clinton, probably. But who do they think is the most formidable Republican opponent?
Well, I think on the latter, I mean, they look at someone like Jeb Bush and see that he is someone who was a governor. He has a record that he can run on. He clearly has a donor base. He's making some smart moves early, so I think that they think that he would be viable. There's always some interest in the White House about people like Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, simply because they deal with them so much on the Hill. In terms of Romney, I mean, I don't think there were any people who wanted Romney to run more than Democrats in the White House and on Capitol Hill. They felt like they had a great argument that they could make against him, picking up on the same argument they made in 2012. If you look at comments the president made the night before Romney said he wasn't going to run, the president had this pretty sharp jab against Mitt Romney, talking about how the former presidential candidate was suddenly now talking about poverty and inequality. And Obama welcomes that kind of debate. So I think that there may be a little disappointment in the White House that Romney's not running this time around.
What do they think about Jeb Bush and the degree to which the Bush name is tainted?
Well, if you remember, Obama had this comment a few months ago where he talked about Americans wanting a new car smell when they look at their presidential candidates. And in some ways that may have been a veiled reference not only to Bush, but to Hillary Clinton. I think that they, looking at their own experience, feel like candidates who are fresh, who are new, can bring new ideas and new energy to a presidential campaign, that's sort of their preferred model. They're not going to say that Bush shouldn't run, but I think there is some sense that maybe some younger people, a new generation, should have a chance.
Do you think, I mean, I got to pick up on this, do you think that there are people in the White House who think Elizabeth Warren would be a better candidate for the Democrats than Hillary Clinton?
I haven't had anyone say that to me personally. I think that they try to downplay this idea of a rift between Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren, that they are pretty far apart. But I think that, sure, for some of these people in the White House who have worked for the president before, who really relish a great primary fight, a great political debate, that they would like to see her in there.
Dana, just less than a minute left. I mean, how do you see this shaping up? Is there going to be an establishment candidate and a Midwestern governor candidate and a further to right-wing Tea Party? I mean, are we going to have like semifinals and then they're all going to go off together in the finals? Or how's this going to work?
I think possibly, if you look at the number of GOP voters that are undecided right now, it's pretty much all of them. So they're going to take this all these candidates out for a test drive and see what they like. And right now, if you look at the Iowa poll today, Scott Walker is up on top.
To be continued and very interesting. Good for Sunday talk shows. Thank you, panel. See you all next Sunday.